Hello and welcome to an all new episode of Peace, Love, and Baseball. I am your host, Kelsey, aka K Bird Tweets, here to dive into different aspects of the game we love and so much more. You can follow me on the Twitter at KBirdTweets. That is KBURD tweets. We're also on Instagram at peace.love.baseball. If Facebook is more your thing, we've got a Facebook page, Peace, Love, and Baseball. And if you are watching on YouTube, on the K-Bird Tweets YouTube channel, make sure that you give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. YouTube has been a little wonky for me lately. I've been having some technical difficulties, but we'll get back up to speed there. And there's tons of episodes, regardless of what platform you are listening on or watching on, to keep up with the over 100 episodes of Peace, Love, and Baseball that have been put out in the last couple of years. We are in the thick of the Fall Classic matchup between the Yankees and Dodgers here, and it is Halloween week. Last year on our Halloween episode, I gave a few suggestions for baseball players or baseball themed things that you could go for, you could go as for Halloween, who have really iconic looks. So before we get into our holiday themed episode on things that MLB should let RIP or rest in peace in 2024, I thought that I would give a few costume ideas, maybe a few last minute costume ideas. So if you are, many of you I know are Cardinals fans. If you're a Cardinals fan looking for a last minute costume idea, I think you could take some inspiration from friend of the show, John Brebbia, former Cardinals relief pitcher, who used to have what he would call Mo Mondays or Mozeliak Mondays, where he would dress up as John Mozeliak, president of baseball operations for the St. Louis Cardinals. This is maybe like your last year to dress as John Mozeliak. So, he has a very specific look about him. His maybe a little sweater tied around the shoulders or even around the waist, a bow tie, of course, maybe some, Dockers or fun colored shorts, depending on what the weather is like where you are at. But I will refer to John Brebbia's Mo Mondays, and I'll post about that on my Twitter. So if you're not following me on Twitter, get there and you'll have even more inspiration for your John Mozeliak costume. Another one that I think would be very on theme for this year is Brent Honeywell, relief pitcher for the Dodgers, who not only has a full mullet, but he now has a permed mullet, which he did specifically for the postseason to just kind of add some vibes, get the guys talking in the clubhouse, and have some fun, have a fun, iconic look for the World Series. So how amazing is that? We love it. So whether you get a wig or you just want to full on go for that perm and mullet look, if you want to really commit to it, I suggest you go for it. All you need is a Dodgers jersey and a permed mullet. There you go. Brent Honeywell. I also think Max Scherzer could be a very fun baseball themed costume because, you could wear a Rangers jersey, and then depending on if you have brown eyes, you got to get a blue color contact because, Max Scherzer has one brown eye and one blue eye, like a husky, like the very unique individual that he is. Or if, you have blue eyes, you get the brown color contact, whatever, vice versa. You get where I'm going with that. So you need just one color contact, or two, I guess, if you have like green eyes or something. And then you also need the all important part that really makes you clearly Max Scherzer is you're going to have that check from the Mets, which you're cashing this year as well in your Rangers jersey. Max Scherzer costume. Another fun one for Cardinals fans I thought could be like a Sonny Gray costume, because I thought something that was very iconic to Sonny Gray this season was his nickname that he gave himself for Players Weekend, which was Plant Daddy. So yeah, you just need a Cardinals jersey with, a custom one where instead of gray on the back, it says Plant Daddy. Or maybe you wear a Sonny Gray jersey, but you could have like a Plant Daddy hat, or some plants with you. Wes McKinney, if you're listening, I want to see you pull this one out. Let's do it. My last suggestion for a 2024 themed baseball costume, last minute here, Jose Iglesias. If you've listened to Peace, Love, and Baseball before, you probably know that I'm a huge Jose Iglesias fan, even bigger Candelita fan, really. So if you're going with the Jose Iglesias costume, I want to see a full half baseball player for the Mets and the other half pop star, half and half, like straight down the middle. Make it happen. Send me a pic, post it all over the place, because that would be sick. OMG. I would love to see it. Okay, let's get into this week's topic, which is things that MLB should let RIP in 2024. So what are some things that Major League Baseball should just let rest in peace, let them die with the 2024 season? We've got a few things that were submitted from listeners, and very common ones. Got a lot of the same ones, and I'll shout those out here. But then a couple that I've just kind of thrown in myself, maybe. So the first one that was by far the most common one that I received is the Ghost Runner. MLB, Rob, it is time to just let the Manfred man rest in peace. The zombie runner, the ghost runner, whatever you call him, he just needs to truly be a ghost, and we need to let him die in 2024. So the ghost runner, if you're not familiar, is in extra innings. There is a new rule that I believe was put in place in 2021, where if we go into extra innings, there is the man who made the last out in the ninth inning or the previous inning will be placed on second base so that there's already a runner in scoring position in extra innings during the regular season. And obviously the whole idea is for it to speed up the game, because at this point we made it to extra innings because both teams are, at least to some extent, having trouble scoring, right? So we're going to just put a guy on second base. We're going to put a runner in scoring position and give both teams that edge to try to get another run across the plate sooner rather than later. But here's the thing, they don't use it in the postseason. So the biggest take that I have for here is that if it's not good enough for the postseason, it is not good enough for 162. We're like completely just taking the integrity away from the game by saying that something that is not good enough to hold up in the postseason is something that we're going to implement for the regular season's games. I don't care how much it affects, how much of a problem it is for TV or for travel schedules. Like, I do not care. It takes away from the integrity of the game, and it just really doesn't make sense. And we all hate it, like fans across the board. I don't know anybody who likes the Ghost Runner. If you do, I want to hear from you. I want you to tell me why you like it. I'm not going to come for you. I'm very open to other opinions or why you think it's a good idea, like how you think it adds to the game. Because I just don't think that it does. And how fun was that first World Series game in extra innings with no Ghost Runner? It just really maintains the integrity of the game. It keeps up the competitiveness of having to manufacture runs one way or the other. You can't play all the different kinds of games on both sides of the ball that you can when you have the guy on second base. No. Bury the Ghost Runner in the ground in 2024. Thank you. The second thing that was listener submitted by a few of you was the Yankees facial hair rule. And I very much agree with this one. I think we can let this rest in peace as well. It has stood the test of time far longer than any other kind of code of conduct or dress code rule for any other team. But I think it's time for it to go. I think there's a lot of players who don't love it. I also just think it's strange. Like, there's so many code of conduct things and ways that you could go about carrying yourself that I think are, can be argued to have a certain validity to, and all of that. But this, like, anything that is really aesthetic based that has nothing to do with how you are presenting yourself to play the game, like even the uniform being worn a certain way, totally get it. The facial hair, especially because it is one team and one team alone, and it seems like it's mostly just like a pride thing at this point, that like they're able to get their players to adhere to it. It really seems like that's why they're continuing to do it, and because of just the Steinbrenner legacy of being afraid to change anything and take that away from the legacy. No, I think it's time to go. And I think we need to embrace anything that lets players show their personalities and be more authentic to who they are. And yeah, I think controlling whether a guy can have facial hair or how he can have his facial hair is just a weird thing. And my dogs, if you're, I mean, if you're listening, which you obviously are, obviously agree with that one. Okay, this one might be a little controversial. So Mets fans, I want to hear from you, but we did have a submission or two that we think we should let Grimace die with 2024. Grimace, RIP, you had your run. You were a great hype man for the Mets. You know, if you haven't been following along closely with the Mets run here in the second half of the season, Grimace threw out the first pitch at a Mets game. Grimace, who is the purple McDonald's blob. He's supposed to be like a embodiment of a milkshake, I think. I'm not sure. We were not able to figure out what Grimace is supposed to be, which also bothers me about Grimace. But I was into the whole hype, the whole gimmick, the whole fun around that. We love the fun. But I think I do think it has to die with 2024. It's kind of almost like the pepper grinder for the Cardinals. A lot of Cardinals fans here. The way that they did not end up carrying that into the next season, it's even more like niche than that, though. I think it was very specific to that run that they had at the end of this 2024 season. And I agree, it's one of those things that we can look back on fondly. And that Grimace seat in Citi Field, they have put a Grimace seat in Citi Field to commemorate it. I think that's totally fine. It can stay. It can be commemorative of the 2024 run here. But I don't think we need to bring Grimace back to throw out another pitch in 2020. I don't think we need to like have Grimace theme nights or like be wearing Grimace merch. I think we let it die here, and that keeps it special. That keeps it fun. That keeps it what it was, right? Along with that, Pete Alonso can smash his rally pumpkin. I think we definitely need to let that die too. That should have died sooner, actually. Okay, this one was the second most submitted one besides the Ghost Runner, and that is bad umpires, bad calls. Oh, yes. We needed to let this rest in peace a long time ago, but it hasn't. So if we could take care of this, and just really let it be buried deep, put that tombstone in the ground for bad umpires being allowed to ump Major League Baseball games, that would be great. And in turn, I guess this is also kind of the same, like life without the challenge system. We have this challenge system. We're going to talk a little bit about that because we're actually going to get into some treats that MLB fans would like to see in 2025 as well to wrap up today's episode. So yeah, bad umpires gotta go. And life without the challenge system is just not something. We have the technology for so many things. We have the analytics that are changing the game in so many ways that at this point, we just have to say goodbye to life without the challenge system. So we'll talk more about the challenge system in a little bit. But while we're continuing on our solid list here of things that Major League Baseball should let rest in peace in 2024, man, if we could make this one happen, I would love it so much. Owners who don't give AF about winning. So there's a certain subset of owners in Major League Baseball that really just do not care about playing good baseball in any way, shape, or form. They care about counting their pennies and keeping their yachts out on the water. To name a few, I think probably the few most like known and hated ones that are probably the worst for the sport right now: John Fisher of the Oakland A's, we've got Artie Moreno of the Los Angeles Angels, and Bruce Sherman of the Miami Marlins. A few kind of, I'm not saying we should let those people rest in peace by any means. Would never wish that on them. Would love to keep them around on this earth because that's just, we wish well for anyone and everyone. But in terms of allowing them to own baseball teams and allowing them to run their baseball teams the way that they are, like that whole approach, the approach is what we want to let rest in peace. The same as the approach of the bad umpires, right? Long live the people. Let them go live on their yacht somewhere. Like really just go do other things with your money, please, and leave our sport alone, because there are owners who do care a lot about winning and growing the game and just making baseball better as a whole. And we want more of them. So if you can just let your approach of owning a baseball team rest in peace in 2024, that would be great. I gotta mention Jerry Reinsdorf of the Chicago White Sox as well, because I know we do have some very passionate White Sox listeners who would be just distraught if I did not mention Jerry. Yeah, they're really the Chicago White Sox of 2024 in general. We've got to let rest in peace. I really hope for something completely different for y'all in 2025. So that whole culture, let's let that whole team's culture rest in peace in 2024. Just let it go. Let's leave it behind. Okay, a few more things here on our MLB let RIP list. The disparity in payroll. Now, this is kind of a controversial one, but it's something that was pointed out and is something that I'm super aware of, and I had to mention it because I do agree with this to a certain extent. I think it is absolutely insane. If you're not into like the business side or the payroll side of, if that's not something that you pay attention to at all, you might not know that the highest payroll in baseball in 2024 uh, includes, off the field or players who are no longer on the team anymore. That's all very convoluted. But the New York Mets had a payroll of about $317 million in 2024, while the Oakland A's had a payroll of $63 million. That is an insane disparity. There were, single players on the Mets roster who were actually not on the Mets roster, on the Mets payroll that were a Max Scherzer. That's our callback to our Max Scherzer costume, who were making more money this season than the entire Oakland A's payroll. So while there's all of this talk constantly among baseball, journalists, reporters, and fans alike of if there should be a salary cap and a salary floor, because there is in other professional sports, which kind of keeps this from happening. And obviously baseball has a completely different way of bringing players up. Like the minor league baseball system and the way that they develop players and the longevity of baseball careers is also very different than other professional sports. So there's a lot of reasons for why it doesn't work the same way. And there are certainly some very specific reasons of why I don't see putting a floor or a cap like being the answer to this. But I think really the answer is what we talked about before of the owners like John Fisher and Bruce Sherman just letting go of their teams and letting us move on to some owners that care more, at least have a passion for the game and for growing the game, and that being the reason that they want to own a team, as opposed to it just making money for them as the same as any other asset that they could, give two shits less about. So I think that's directly correlated to the disparity in payroll. But yeah, we also don't really want to put any kind of limitations on the money that these players can make directly. But if we just had a little bit more balance on the field, we'd see more competitive games. We'd have more fans, because fans who are in Miami would be a lot more into that team if they were ever as remotely competitive as a lot of the other teams, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, can we do something about that disparity in payroll and just let that big old wide gap from 63 to 317 million rest in peace in 2024? Okay, last few things here are a little more player specific, a little more team specific, might get a little up in arms depending on who you're a fan of here, but oh man, I had this one submitted and I had to share it because I'm seeing more and more of this from baseball fans who want to see Juan Soto as a Yankee rest in peace in 2024. Whoa. Now, I am the co-host of Bourbon and Baseball with Susie. So if you've been listening to our most recent episodes, we were discussing this, and Susie really thinks that if the Yankees were to win the World Series, that Juan Soto is like as good as gone, because the Yankees are just not going to do what it takes to keep him around and necessarily feel the pressure to do that the same way that they would if they lose. And so if they lose, she thought that they would be much more competitive in, making sure that he stays a Yankee for life, as opposed to maybe letting Steve Cohen, owner of the Mets, who, by the way, that he has that $317 million payroll. If you look at their payroll for 2025, tons of that coming off the books. I think it's around like 140 million. So Uncle Steve of the New York Mets gonna go out and spend some money this offseason. You can guarantee it. And I mean, he was trying to do it last season, remember, right? And it didn't happen. They did not get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but they were absolutely willing to push to make that happen and spend that money, even with their payroll where it's at this season. So if you think about it that way, he is more than willing to do whatever is necessary to make Juan Soto a Met. I think that could be really exciting, controversial, which Juan Soto would probably like. There's also reports that the Philadelphia Phillies, who are super willing to spend money and need to do something exciting to shake it up this offseason, that they're going to be in on Juan Soto, as well as his former team, the Washington Nationals, who, if you have been listening, we've, done some episodes talking about how the Nats are, they're getting to their boiling point of really being back in that competitive conversation. And Juan Soto absolutely loved playing there. So you never do know. We will have so much time to talk about the Juan Soto free agency in this offseason, but there are plenty of baseball fans that I think are ready to see Juan Soto as a Yankee rest in peace in 2024. I'm not really sure, because here's the thing. I think he is an amazing fit for the Yankees. I also think it's like annoying that he's a Yankee, because it's just so predictable. And I don't like the super predictable things. So yeah, I wouldn't be mad either way. I really have no like specific feelings towards that at the moment, which makes it even more interesting for me to just like be open to see how it's going to go. All right, 2 more things on this list. The next one, this is actually my only like personal one that I put on here. And that is, I think we need to let DH winning MVP RIP in 2024. It's pretty obvious that Shohei Ohtani is going to win the National League MVP this season as exclusively as the DH for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And trust me, I love Shohei Ohtani as much as the next person. I really, really do. I think it's such an amazing time to be a baseball fan, just to get to see him play. And I think what he does is absolutely incredible, even if he is just a DH. But I'm a defense queen. I love it. I miss it being highlighted the way that it has been in other eras of baseball. And I don't love that a DH is going to win MVP. I think this will be the first time that a exclusive DH is going to win MVP, because obviously Shohei Ohtani has won the MVP before, but he was pitching as well as DHing. Then completely different thing. I've also said, if you listened before, and multiple times, that if Shohei Ohtani is DHing and doing anywhere near what he is currently doing at the plate, and he has below a 4 ERA, he is hands down MVP, no questions asked. So on the other end of the spectrum, on the other side of the coin, I feel that way about it. But I want to see a guy like Francisco Lindor, who is contributing on both sides of the ball, game after game, series after series, through 162, be that MVP, because that's what MVP is to me. That's a piece of it. And that's something that is unique. It is unique to baseball, right? That all the players play on both sides of the ball. So that's who the MVP should be to me, as somebody who does both extremely well. Okay, last thing. This is also mine, but I wasn't the only one who said this. Thank you, Cardinals fans. The last thing on our list today that MLB should let RIP in 2024 is the Tommy Edman disrespect. Yes, friends and fans, Tommy Edman was the National League Championship Series MVP He is on the same team as Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez. Should I go on? But no, none of those guys were the MVP. It was Tommy Edman, which if you've been here, like, I knew was going to happen. And I didn't know it was going to happen because, like, here's the thing, Cardinals fans, hear me now. All the Cardinals fans were like, yeah, we knew it was going to happen because every time John Mozeliak trades away a player, he's amazing. Adolis Garcia was the MVP last year. Of course it was going to be Tommy Edman. That is not why I knew it was going to be Tommy Edman. I knew it was going to be Tommy Edman because that is the level of player that Tommy Edman is, and no one else knows, and no one else has seen it except for me. So really, I'm the only one who really knew, who really believed in Tommy Edman. Not the only one, because I see you out there, Paul. I see you out there, Sarah. I see you out there, Haley. I hear you. I'm with you. I know you're with me. But we were the small group of true Tommy Edman truthers who knew this entire time and were just never wavering, even for a moment. So the Tommy Edman disrespect has to go. Before the 2023 season, I believe, yeah, Tommy Edman was, I think he was like in the 60s. They do a top 100 players in Major League Baseball, and I think he was like 62-ish or something like that. And I was really happy to even see that he was on that list. But that was the only time he's ever made that list. And then going into the 2024 season, he was not on that list. He was injured. So I'm assuming that that is at least part of it. But there were other injured players, and there were other players who weren't ever even, had not even made their major league debuts yet, that were somehow on that list. So the Tommy Edman disrespect has to stop, mostly from the national media. And I think it will, because now he's on the Dodgers and he's playing on the biggest stage and he's performing insanely well on the biggest stage. If you haven't heard, he now has he is tied for most multi-hit games in postseason history, along with Mookie Betts, for in Dodgers franchise history. So if he has another multi-hit game, he will be the sole holder of that stat, and that could very well happen. And I mean, we're 2 games into the World Series. The Dodgers have won both, but Tommy Edman has contributed heavily in both of those games. And if he contributes even half as much in the rest of their wins and they go on to win the World Series, he will undoubtedly also be the World Series MVP. And I will not be surprised, but I will be very, very excited. And the Tommy Edman disrespect has to end. It ends. It should have already ended. I think we're burying it right now. We're throwing some more dirt on it. Let it rest in peace. To wrap up today, let's talk about some treats. No tricks, just treats that MLB fans deserve in 2025. And maybe we'll circle back to these and see if any of these things come to fruition. Rob, if you're listening, here's some suggestions from the listeners and me to you on ways that you can treat us in 2025. Okay, we need the challenge system for balls and strikes. I'm not talking full ABS. We don't want full automated balls and strikes. No, we know there's too many issues with that. We love the human element. We want it. But I have been to a minor league game where the challenge system was put in play. It did not disrupt the flow. It kept things snappy. It kept things really interesting. Fans were probably even more invested because there was this challenge system and they wanted to know what was up. So why it's not happening, I don't know. Let's put it into play, because especially the kinds of calls that we've seen this postseason, even just specifically in the World Series, we got to get that challenge system up and running stat. It's going to add a whole nother element of strategy and fun to the game. Let's do it. This was a suggestion from a listener that I absolutely loved. Would be a real treat to see in 2025. The City Connect jerseys, they're fun, right? Some are better than others, but you know what would make them really fun? If we put the player nicknames on the back of the jerseys. They took that away from us for Players Weekend. They used to put player nicknames that the players got to pick on the back of their jerseys for Players Weekend. They're not doing that anymore. Players Weekend wasn't a thing for the last few years. They brought it back this year, but they decided that player nicknames were just too fun. And why would we make baseball fun? We need it to be fun. So let's put the player nicknames on the back of the City Connect jerseys. I think it makes it it makes the whole connect part of it more of a thing, right? And they should wear them. Another part of this submission was that they should wear them like 20 plus times a year. And I totally agree. Let's make it part of the regular rotation, maybe like Friday or Saturday home games or both or whatever. Let's do it. I love that idea. I think that would be so fun. And you would probably sell a lot more City Connect jerseys that way. Cha-ching. Come on, Rob. Okay, something that I want to see that I think would more of in 2025. I think there could be a whole slew of rules that could be implemented or things to make this more of a thing, but let's bring back the true starting pitcher matchup. I want the names at the top of the marquee matchup of like, we're going to see the game tonight because Pedro Martinez and Roger Clemens are facing off. That kind of matchup. There's so few of those right now in Major League Baseball. And it's a bummer. Like, that's something that I really miss. I think it sells more tickets. I think more people tune in to the game. And I think it just adds to the integrity of the game, and it really maintains pitchers' careers better if we're going to invest in like that level and that the art of pitching, if you will. I could get like really heady with this, so we're not going to get too far into it, but let's bring back the true starting pitcher matchups. And if we have to put some kind of, I don't want to get anything too convoluted or too tricky, but I do think having like an innings limit where if the starting pitcher comes out before then, you lose the DH or have some sort of disadvantage. I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that. I think it would be overall good for the game, the health of the pitchers, and the direction that we see pitchers being invested in, like the types of pitchers that we see being invested in. And I think that leads to only good things for players and fans alike. Starting pitcher matchups, baby. Bring them back. Another big treat that I think we need to see that we're hearing a lot about right now is check swing verification. Have you seen the latest technology? I think they're just starting to implement it at all at like the collegiate and professional levels, but there is now technology of where we can see from above to set some sort of objectivity to a check swing. I could not be more in line with utilizing this, pun intended, I guess, there, in line with whatever that check swing objectivity is, because it drives everyone insane that there is no, like, it is the least objective thing, I think, in baseball. It is easily one of the least objective things in baseball, the check swing. And so we just need to put more specification around what that is. And it doesn't happen, like, again, super often to the point of where I think it would disrupt the flow of the game or there's any really negative ramifications of it. So since we've got it going, we have the technology for it, we have the resource, put it in play. That'd be a real treat to see in 2025 Major League Baseball games. These last two are a little personal for me to wrap it up here, but I think a big treat for us Cardinals fans, specifically in 2025, probably not going to be a whole lot of them because we know the organization is going to take probably a hard left turn here to change some things around and spend some less money than we want to see, even less than what we've been seeing, which is already less than we want to see them spending. But what I think they could do that wouldn't necessarily cost a ton of money, and they're already kind of headed in the right direction for, is I want to see Cardinals Gold Glove defense at every position. It was not long ago that we had the Cardinals nearly sweeping the National League Gold Glove awards at every position, and we might as well put the focus back on this because there are a lot of defensive first players that are not going to be super high priced players. They're not the guys who get the most money most of the time, and they might be guys like Michael Ciani, who we could see develop at the plate if they were given a chance to play more consistently. And I mean, why not? If we're not going to spend money on guys and we're going to be plugging and playing a little bit, like, let's make this defense so solid gold and just make that a staple of Cardinals baseball again. That is a treat that I am begging for in 2025 from the St. Louis Cardinals and from Major League Baseball. Last thing here, this might be a little bit controversial, but I don't know. I was thinking about how so the Savannah Bananas, which are a very fun, entertainment-based, kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters for basketball, they are that for baseball, but like way better. I've not seen them in person yet, but I this is something I'm going to treat myself to in 2025. They're coming to so many major league stadiums and all over the country in 2025. So the way that they do their tickets is instead of making tickets insanely expensive and that, only certain people are even going to be able to afford to go, the tickets are all like reasonably priced. I think they might even be like all the same price. Don't quote me on that, but there's a lottery for tickets. So you have to be selected for the lottery and then you can buy the tickets, and they're the barrier of entry is that you have to win the lottery, not that you have to win the ticket lottery. So you have to be selected to buy the tickets, not that you have to win the actual lottery or be a millionaire to be able to afford to go, because that's how it feels to be able to afford to go to even a regular baseball game, depending on where you're at. I mean, I live right outside of Philadelphia, and to go to Citizens Bank Park for any game because of how competitive the team has been and how popular they are and everything, like, it's expensive just to go to a regular game. The postseason games, I mean, I'm sure you've heard if you've been watching any of the World Series how outrageously expensive it is to go to a World Series game at the two, biggest markets and the places where the tickets are the most expensive during the regular season as it is. But it kind of bums me out because, I mean, it really bums me out because it just means that there's a really specific demographic of people who will get the opportunity to go to postseason games. And I know that's for a lot of things, but for this game, for how many games there are, for the kind of like the way that we can grow the fan base and grow the love of the game is by making it more accessible for people. And I think it would be really cool, would be a real treat if there were even just a small percentage of playoff tickets that were sold via a lottery like that at a reasonable price, so that there was at least a chance for people who can pay, say, $50 or less would be great. Like, really, would it be that terrible if we just sold a few thousand tickets at a price like that, where people could buy them, and if they won the lottery, if they got selected, that they could actually afford to go? So again, I would love it if all the tickets could be that way, but I know, I don't, the players, the teams, they get like shares of the ticket prices and stuff. So again, not trying to take away from anyone else or anything, but man, they're making so much money off of so many things. And I think if it could just be more accessible for a larger demographic of people, that could, again, only be good for the game, and it would be a real treat for a lot of really great baseball fans. Well, my friends and fans, I hope you are enjoying the last week of baseball here in 2024. It's sad. It's sad that it's the last week we're going to get to watch baseball in 2024, watch Major League Baseball in 2024. Off-season episodes should be a lot of fun because there are always so many things, so many interesting storylines, things going on to follow. So, I will catch you back here next week for more peace, love, and baseball.